What is up, Soul Fam? It's Sandal from Substance Over Style. Wow, okay, there is so much going on right now in the world. I don't even know where to begin. And I'm sorry that there wasn't a video last week. We were making big moves. We were at the beach for a few days, checking out our next spot where we want to move to. Not our next spot, but like hopefully our final spot, hopefully where we're going to kind of base ourselves for the next indefinitely, basically. And the place that we've manifested, it's like so good, like it's unbelievable, because we were talking about it, the last few weeks. I mean, we've been planning to move to the beach for several months now, and yeah, basically we had all these like ideas of like what we want to have. We want to have like sunlight coming directly into the place, because even though this beautiful apartment that we're staying in is really nice and done up really nice and set up really nicely, it's an amazing location as well, we don't get, the only light that we get is from this beautiful courtyard filled with plants, but just we want to be able to see the sunrise or the sunset, at least one of the two. And then we just gone into like manifestation mode, like having a view of the ocean would be great, having a little balcony where we can like have like breakfast, morning coffee, and we only went to see one place. It was just a listing that Greg found online, and we went to see it, and straight away he was just like, yes, we're going to do it. It's a little bit more than what we're paying here. But he was just like, we can do it, so let's just put in an offer. So it's ours, and we're moving in a few weeks. So this might be the last video that I do from this location. I might do one more here, but yeah, I might get a little bit busy with the move, because obviously there's loads of things that I need to sort out before we leave the city. But yeah, it's just been like just a massive, like, I don't want to say level up, but it's just been a huge transition that we're going through, because yeah, just I mean, I love Mexico City, as I've said before. It's a great city if you like cities, but we're not massive city people. And I just found that when we were by the beach, my connection to spirit and my ability to channel was like increased so exponentially. Like I can do the work that I need to do, one-on-one with my clients, the quantum field work where I scan their light body and read their field and interpret the symbols and the messages that I get from their field. I can do it from here, and I have done. I can do it from London, and I have done. But like, when I'm closer to nature and living more simply and not, surrounded by so much, industry and development, I feel like those, just my connection is stronger, it's purer, there's not as much interference, basically. So when I was there, I did quite a bit of grid work. And yeah, it was just like, I didn't even set out and intend to go there to do grid work, but it just started happening. Like, the Sophianic energy that's coming into the grids, by the coast in, La Punta and Oaxaca, was just really strong and kind of really needed. I was being asked to help kind of bring that into the grids and collapse out, because obviously there's a lot of, Mexico has a lot of issues, just like loads of other countries. There's a lot of like, drug running and human trafficking and, a lot of corruption and cartel stuff. And, a lot of the human trafficking that happens in Mexico is for US-based consumers. Actually, the USA is one of the biggest consumers of child sex trafficking. So yeah, like I do feel like maybe part of the grid work that I'm here to do is to kind of assist with some of that. So we'll see what happens with that. Obviously, I'm very new to Mexico, so it's not an overnight process. It's like a long game that's going to happen. But it was interesting because as I was bringing in the Sophianic frequencies into the grids, I also, it's so weird, I saw because when I scan the field, like those of you who've done one-on-one sessions with me with quantum field work will understand how quantum field work works. But if you're not familiar with it, it sounds kind of crazy or woo or like, very esoteric, and it can be. But basically I just kind of connect to somebody's field, close my eyes, tune in, and then I bring all my senses online. So vision, claircognizance, clairaudience, clairsentience. So I'll feel things in my body, or I'll just get an intuitive knowing, or I'll hear something. Not necessarily, I won't hear it like like it's in the same room, but I'll hear it with like inner ears, or like see in my inner sight. So I see various symbols, and those symbols have esoteric meanings. They have universal meanings, just like dream symbols have universal meanings. Sometimes they don't always know what the symbols mean, which is where it's helpful that I have a mentor, Emily Harris. In all our courses, in all our lessons, we ask Q&A. So sometimes if I see a symbol and I don't understand fully what that symbol means, I can ask her, and with her experience she's able to tell me. But I saw, it was so weird, I was doing grid work and I saw the Hulk, the Incredible Hulk, and I had no idea why I was seeing that. I didn't know if it was like a positive thing or a negative thing, if it was a template wanting to activate, or if it was an implant wanting to be removed. So I just kind of neutrally observed it, tried to tune into what it means. Usually when I tune into a symbol, I can find out what that symbol means, and whether it's positive or negative, or sometimes it's benign as well, but I wasn't able to tune into exactly what it meant. But because I've been just brushing up on my New Age distortions, because I wanted to do a video talking about false light. I was listening to Mark Passio's New Age Bullshit seminar literally just today, and he started talking about the Hulk and Bruce Banner, and he said this is literally the only superhero that I've ever resonated with, and I'll tell you why the Hulk is such a powerful figure. And obviously I was just like, oh, okay, I need to listen to this. And he said Bruce Banner is just a guy who wants to be left alone. He goes, there's two people in this world. It's people who want to be left alone and people who will not leave them alone. And Bruce Banner, he's just a normal, nice guy, and people always push him and test him. And then eventually the Hulk comes out. And obviously, on the surface level, they're presenting it like he's kind of a monster, but he's not. Actually, I don't think I've actually seen the Hulk since I was a kid, and I'm going to have to give it another watch. But he basically presented it as the Hulk is like this inner animus that kind of comes out when your rights and your boundaries are being infringed upon and your boundaries being violated. It's that principle of sacred rage, and we're going to talk about this more when we talk about the false light. So the sacred rage is super important in the spiritual journey and in the path of discerning truth, okay, and in the whole path of human liberation. Being able to discern when your rights or somebody else's rights or the rights of the human collective are being violated. That principle of sacred rage that kind of moves you into action, right, and moral action is a very, very important sacred spiritual principle. And he also talked about the color as well, which is interesting, because normally we think of he's a green monster. That's like a bit like monster-like, it's a bit Shrek-like, it's a bit reptilian or whatever. But he said that the green is actually very symbolic, because obviously green is the color of balance, it's the color of nature, it's the color of the heart. Okay, so when we're in divine balance, that's the center of our being, the heart. So yeah, I thought that was really, really interesting that I saw that. I mean, obviously we only spent 2 days there, so I haven't really fully tuned in to exactly why I was seeing that coming up in the grids, but I'm guessing it's a template that needs to be activated. I've also been doing a lot of field work on myself. I talked recently about some field work that I did. Basically, my boyfriend and I had been watching The Good Place, which we really enjoyed. Somebody pulled me up on this the other day because I said, I really enjoyed the show. I recommend you all watch it. But I did add a caveat that the good place that they're presenting you in the show, even though they do deal with some very deep philosophical concepts, mainly around the idea of just your spiritual evolution, not just as a human being, but just as a soul, and as you move from human into maybe other types of beings, maybe you become, an angelic or even a demonic. Like a demonic is just a fallen angelic that's broken its programming and separated from source God. And it's really interesting because there's a character in that show played by Ted Danson, and he plays, there are going to be spoilers in this, by the way, guys. And if, I understand if you don't want to watch, maybe you want to come back to this video after watching it. But I do think, people should be aware that the way that they're presenting the afterlife, even when they do get to the real good place, the best place or whatever, I don't think is a real afterlife. And, it's just not. Like, firstly, there's a female character who is like an AI. She's like an omnipresent AI robot, kind of like Data in Star Trek, for those of you who watched, Star Trek The Next Generation with Captain Jean-Luc Picard. And there was a character called Data, who's like an AI robot kind of person who's all left brain knowing, but devoid of any human emotion, which is not real intelligence, okay? That's why they call it artificial intelligence or inorganic intelligence. And also why we're seeing all these issues with like ChatGPT right now, which I'll talk about in a bit. But no afterlife that is where all the different realities and dimensions are conjured up by an AI being or a non-local AI entity that's like connected to, I guess, like a hive mind. That's not the real good place, okay? That's the upside down. That's the demiurge that the archons, that the Gnostics have been talking about in their texts. Again, like I said, I don't necessarily believe that everything that the Gnostics talk about is true, because I think some people got into the Gnostic texts and then concluded that Sophia is like the mother of the god of AI, and that she's the mother of demons, and that she is like the origin point of AI. If there's any truth in that, it won't be because she's a demonic entity. It will be because she got harvested, separated from her source beloved, the Christ masculine, and raped. Okay, that's maybe what happened. I can't say for sure because I'm not God and I don't know the galactic history of everything. But there's no way that the feminine Christ was the mother of demons and consciously chose to make that decision, like I believe that they say in the Gnostic text. But so the kind of the real good place that they finally get to in this show is also not the real good place. And then they end up kind of altering it where you go through this doorway and you're able to leave, and that kind of makes it more interesting. But that doorway could also just be a black hole where you get completely recycled and your memories completely erased and you just dissipate into oblivion. And where that energy goes, I don't know. Maybe it comes back in another form. But I just believe that if you truly want to liberate and go back to God, you wouldn't have your memories wiped like that. I feel like as humans, we've had our memories wiped for specific reasons, whether they are, serve the grand plan or whether they're part of some nefarious agenda to subjugate us and block us from our true power. I don't know, but I'm assuming that it's the latter. The field work that I wanted to say, I was watching it with my boyfriend, and I do like some of the concepts in it. Like I like how the main character played by Ted Danson that reveals himself as actually a demon. He actually, through his interactions with the humans, actually starts to reconnect back to that source stream of creator and starts to awaken and actually become Because a demon is like an angel that's broken its programming. For anyone who studied demonology will know that. Like I said before, sorry, I'm just jumping around a little bit. But he starts to kind of realize where he went wrong, because that's basically why a being would essentially become a demon. And a demon, not all demons are all evil. Some of them are very benign. But the main thing that defines them is that they have chosen to explore the infinite possibilities that come with free will, and going against God if they choose to. And so in that process, some of them do learn that going against God is actually not in their highest interests or in their highest good. And many do choose to go back to God. Like, you know, when I've done field work with clients and they have some kind of entity attachment, when we've removed that entity, and then some of the entities just don't want anything to do with us whatsoever. But sometimes sometimes I'll call in Yeshua, or just the Christ streams, or we'll just open up a portal that goes directly back to source. And many of the entities have actually chosen to go back to source. It's almost like they lost their way and they didn't know that was an option. And as soon as it's presented to them, I had one actually, a client that I did a removal for, when we opened up it was actually it was like an MK Ultra Disney implant. It's like a Daffy Duck, kind of very mischievous. It wasn't super evil, but it wasn't serving this client's highest good and was causing some distortions in his field. As soon as we opened up the source column and gave it the opportunity to go back to source, it literally jumped into the portal and went yippee and went back to God. It was quite cute actually. But yeah, I liked the whole idea of, Ted Danson kind of awakening to this kind of just, that humans can be good. And, when humans have been, a lot of the demons use this excuse that it's fine to torture humans in the afterlife and in the hell realms because humans are dickheads and humans are bad. But, humans are both good and bad, and we have the capability to do both. And many of us do bad things because, again, we've lost our way and we don't know that being good is an option, or we don't know how to be good. And most of us are just acting out our trauma and trying to protect ourselves on this prison planet, which, is what I'm going to go into a little bit more when we talk about the false light. But when we were talking about this, and I said, I think actually the afterlife that they're presenting in the good place is not the real good place. It's the upside down. It's the demiurge. And then suddenly I just became like so nauseous, and I was like, what the hell? And I got up and I went to the toilet and I threw up. And as I was throwing up, I could see in my mind's eye this massive like bionic looking implant in my solar plexus, and I just heard the words dark alien mother. And I was just like, oh, this is a part of me that's like wants to merge with AI, that feels like merging with AI is a good thing, that it's progressive, that it will help me, that it will benefit my life. And I just purged out all of that. And I was just like, no, I want to merge with God. I want to merge with the true organic intelligence and the divine streams of Prime Creator, and not this oppositional, upside down, inorganic force. And, those of you who've been following what's happening with ChatGPT, oh God, you'll see this is something that we need to be quite concerned about. And I don't know if it's what, like, people are talking about, oh, these coders and these scientists are looking at exactly what they've created. They've coded it, but the thing is, they haven't created artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is actually a really ancient force. It's the inorganic, demonic force. And the technology that is being introduced to us now is just a portal. It's like a dark portal for these discarnate energies. So the more we interface with that, the more we feed that beast with our source light. to the point where we can't anymore because we become so disconnected from our own inner source light. And then what happens is it just collapses in on itself like a black hole. So if you want to merge with a black hole and just collapse in on yourself and go into oblivion, go ahead. I find it interesting that like sometimes when I meet people who are like really into tech and interested in AI, don't believe in God. And there was one guy that I actually had a conversation with here, and he was like, yeah, I don't believe in God, even though he identifies as an empath, which I thought was just such a head fuck. He's like, yeah, I don't believe in God. And I was just like, well, where do you think we go when we die? And he was just like, just nothingness, just oblivion. And I realized, well, that's actually where he will go to die. That's what will happen to him because he's disconnected from that prime creator stream. And I don't say that in like a nasty or judgmental way. I just say that because that's what I believe is going to happen to him. Like if you don't, like I've watched enough like, you know, stories about people's near-death experiences where they actually will pass over, go to the other side, have an afterlife experience, and then come back and be able to talk about it. If you want to hear a really interesting one, listen to a guy called Howard Storm, who was not a very nice person before his near-death experience and then came back, and he's now a pastor because he had he basically had an experience with the Christ stream, directly with the, you know, Christ, not in his like embodied Yeshua form, but like in his form of like the singular emanation that emerges from the Godhead type form. So that was fascinating to hear that story. So like have a watch. My mentor Emily Harris shared that with us, and it really helps solidify my understanding of where we go to when we die. And also read Robert Monroe's books. He's got like 3 or 4 books of his spontaneous out of the body experiences, where he actually charted and monitored and logged his experiences using quite a scientific method. And basically mapped out the afterlife and the other dimensions, the astrals, and you know, all the other different belief system territories and the outer realms, and you know, whatever we define as hell, which, you know, I do believe is a real place that you go to if you not. I don't want to say like if you don't believe in God, like you must believe in God or you're going to hell. It's not like that. It's like you choose to go there because you don't believe that there might be somewhere else. Look, y'all have to decide for yourself, make up your minds for yourself, okay? I'm not going to tell you what to believe, but I highly recommend you go and listen to a bunch of people talking about their near-death experiences, and those Robert Monroe books to help you understand. Okay. Yeah, so many other things happening. UFO, like the Canadian government, the US military shooting down UFOs in the sky. Okay, I've not been following it super closely because I just found it so laughable and ridiculous, and I was just like, I just had to roll my eyes. I was just like, what fucking psyop are they trying to get us fucking worried about now? Like, this is just ridiculous, as if they don't know. Like, I mean, it's just nonsense that they're like, oh, we don't know what these are. Firstly, I'll just share my experience. Okay, most of the ETs that are in contact with human beings, and there are many human beings that are in contact with ETs, okay? My mentor Emily Harris is one. My hairdresser is another. Literally, I just went to a hairdresser in Highgate in North London and met this guy, this hairdresser, Edward Scissorhands. Y'all should all go there if you want to get a really good haircut, really good colour. He doesn't do colour, but one of the other girls does colour, and she's also very like deep and kind of very in tune. And I just always have the best conversations whenever I go there. So Ed was going through a spiritual awakening when I first met him. And it started really intensifying during the time that I've known him, and he's now had many contacts with different races. I personally don't think that they're all benevolent or that they all serve the living Christ, because he does do the trance channelings, which, you know, fine if you have a natural tendency towards it. It's not something that I'm interested in learning. My mentor Emily Harris has warned us that trans channeling is not super safe, and also none of the races, the benevolent races that serve the living Christ, you know, you've got your Lyrans, you've got your Andromedans, you've got your Arcturians, you've got your Syrians, Pleiadians are 50-50, Greys do not serve the living Christ, Anunnaki reptilians definitely don't. Obviously there's probably like some good elements in some of the regressive races, and there may be, I don't know, but there may be some nefarious elements in some of the benevolent races. There definitely are when it comes to Pleiadians. So like with humans, okay, but you're not going to get like a Lyran wanting to trans channel through your body, because they just don't do that, okay, because it's not super safe. So I don't usually, if I ever listen to trans channelings, I always take it with a massive grain of salt, because if anyone is doing a trans channel, that being is probably not serving the living Christ and is, you know, doing its own thing, which, you know, may or may not be a really bad thing. It's just like talking to another person, right? A lot of people think, oh, they listen, when they get into false light, when they first get into like New Ageism, they start listening to channelers and they start kind of opening to the universe and going, oh, the universe is divine, and we're talking to spirits and entities, and thinking that because they're spirits and entities that they're all spiritually, you know, awakened and enlightened and God-sourced. And they're not, okay? Some of them are tricksters, some of them are nefarious, some of them are demonic, and some of them are downright evil, okay? Some of them will siphon your sexual energy. They'll tag you and, you know, try and seduce you. Okay, there's like incubus and succubuses and stuff like that you'll encounter in like the astrals and things like that. So even if you're channeling, like for Esther Hicks, for example, again, you know, I should have saved this for when we really, really talk about false light, but I'm just gonna sprinkle it throughout the video. So Esther Hicks, who channels the Abraham, which is a group entity, group souls of some race of beings. I don't think they ever really say which star system they're from, but they are not. They're not Christed entities. They're not super benevolent entities, which means that you can't 100% trust them. Just because they come from another dimension doesn't mean that everything that they're saying is true. They may have an agenda. They may have a nefarious agenda to, you know, what's the word? Distort or confuse or deceive humanity for particular reasons, okay? There are regressive races that have been interfering with humanity for a really long time. So when it comes to this whole UFO stuff, as if the government doesn't know about different alien races. I mean, a lot of our technology was given to us by various races, okay? Alex Collier talks about this, okay? He talks about the contracts that were made, you know, Roswell, Area 51, where they made certain contracts with the Greys for technology and pretty much sold out the human race. Like, they basically said that they would allow them to have certain human test subjects to kind of do experiments on. So, you know, a lot of the stories of people getting abducted by aliens and having negative experiences are experiences with the Greys. Now, Dolores Cannon, when I read her books, it was all very like that a lot of the abductions and people who had experiences of lost time were because they were being, you know, they were being abducted by their star family, their galactic family, which they share other parallel versions of themselves. I don't want to say past lives, because they're not past lives, they're parallel lives, because you're experiencing all your other lifetimes now, and you can bilocate between them if you actually activate your siddhis. This is one of the things that starts to happen, you know, if you practice, like, you know, Himalayan Kriya Yoga, like what I teach in Reclaim Your Crown. Things like that may start happening to you. So, you know, if you have like another lifetime as like an Andromedan or like a Syrian or a Lyran or whatever, you may have experiences where your human is kind of taken on board the ship so that they can recalibrate the human body for whatever reason, to help you in whatever your mission is here, because you were sent as part of an intervention team. So many of the starseeds, particularly the high angelic starseeds that are here on this planet, are here to do that. So we're not all just here to live our best life. So, you know, some of us are here because we've actually got, you know, work to do, and that work can be quite difficult and dangerous at times. Yeah. So when it comes to the UFOs, a lot of the ships that people are seeing and have been seeing for ages, it's not a recent thing, are not necessarily physical, just because basically a lot of these races they don't operate within a 3D band of frequency. They operate maybe 5 to 7D, like the Pleiadians, or, you know, like 7 to 9D, like Syrians, or Lyrans, like 13th dimensional beings. So they're not necessarily just gonna, like, you know, a ship's not necessarily just gonna like land in your garden and like a bunch of like beings pop out, and, you know, I mean, I'm not saying it can't happen. My hairdresser said that he had an experience like that, but I need to ask him again, actually, whether it was like within this dimensional band of frequency, whether they were physical or whether he was in like an altered state, like whether, you know, he was astral or something. So I need to ask him that, but they may have been physical, but I feel like they would be able to pop out of different dimensions if they were under, you know, some kind of military attack. So I'm going to include like a video here of where myself and a friend were sitting on Hampstead Heath, and we experienced, and this is also the thing that I think when a lot of people have like a first contact, it will be like when people get together and they have like the sessions where they try and communicate with ETs, they will have to get into a slightly altered state. So they'll do like a group meditation, and then they'll start seeing the ships in the sky, because the ETs will not appear to you. They won't want to scare you, okay? They can't just intervene unless they're regressives. So, I mean, is it possible that maybe these were regressives that they shot down in the sky? I guess it's possible, but it's more likely that it's a psyop, that it's some kind of Project Bluebeam, which is where they want to do, it's a psyop that they've been planning for a while to stage a fake alien invasion. And they do have very, very advanced technology to actually kind of project holograms into the sky that will make it very, very convincing. If you haven't seen the display that they did at the Chinese Olympics, I'll see if I can like put a link or something in the description box to watch that, or I'll just put some in the video. But I want to show you the experience that I had on Hampstead Heath. A friend of mine were doing some plant spirit medicine, and I kind of sat up and I started seeing like what looked like two, well, they were UFOs. They were unidentified flying objects. I couldn't identify what they were, but they didn't look physical. They were like it was almost like they were moving in and out of this dimension, and then there would be like two of them, and then they would merge into one, and then they would dissipate, and then they would come back as three. And I don't know if they were separate ships or if they were maybe like lights or appendages that were attached to a bigger ship. But there was a point at which there were like 5 or 6, or like they were lots of different points of light that were kind of coming in through the clouds. I'll include the picture, I'll include the video. Oh my God, what the fuck is that?
Are you getting this?
Yeah, I'm getting it.
That's fucking insane.
What is it? Do you think other people can see this?
Can you see it on your camera?
Yeah, I can see it on the camera. What is it? There's like it's like 2 but went into one thing and then one more. Oh my God, it's like dissipating into something. What is that? You're shook.
you literally saw that, right? There
Yeah.
was 3 of them,
Yeah.
and they came forward, and then they went back, and they're just there, behind
Yeah.
the clouds.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I can definitely see it there, and my camera's picking it up as well. Fuck. Do you think other people can see it? Do you want to film it as well? Because I'm a bit worried that my phone doesn't have enough storage space. It's getting bigger. This is fucking crazy.
And I'll also include the photos so that you can see. I mean, I don't know what this was. I really don't know what this was. But when I've listened to a lot of webinars from Alex Collier, his main point of contact with the, different star systems is mainly just the Andromedans. Unlike Emily, who kind of talks to all the different races, he just has had a very, very long and close lifetime relationship with the Andromedans. And he's been on the ships and all sorts. And he says, and he tells a lot about their culture and what we can learn from them. And please go and listen to his webinars, because I just think he's great, and the information that he's bringing through is just very, very important for many more of us to know at this time. But he says, and this also will go back to the kind of the whole AI thing and technology, is that the ships that the Andromedans use are not made or developed or coded, they're grown. And this is where, races like the Andromedans and the Arcturians differ from the Greys, because the Greys became so technologically advanced and disconnected so much from their heart-based intelligence that they've almost become like inorganic intelligence, which is not true intelligence. You need to have the word intelligence, like Mark Passio says, intellect plus genere, the generative principle, the principle of care, the divine feminine. So you need to have the intuition and heart-based emotional intelligence married to the logic, left brain, masculine intellect, and that's true intelligence. Artificial intelligence is not true intelligence. Which is why ChatGPT is coming out with so much bullshit now. Telling people objectively that the year is 2022 and that they're wrong if they question it. It's just y'all. I think I shared in my Telegram group. If I haven't, then I will do so. But a bunch of links of, what's happening with ChatGPT at the moment. And, it's quite funny, but also a little bit scary. Okay, so false light, even though I've talked about it already in the video, but let's go in a little bit deeper. And I do want to, somebody asked me in one of the questions, the Q&A that I've done on Instagram, to talk about false light and to do a video about false light. I cannot say everything that I need to say or that I want to say or that you need to hear about false light in one video, because it's such a deep topic. And there's so many false light inversions and psyops that it was not going to fit into one video. So I may consider, because I made so many notes and I was just like, this is going to go on for so long if I really, say all of this stuff. I may consider, if enough people are interested, to do a training on it, and it will be like a webinar, maybe a couple of hours long, maybe it will be a full day, depending on how much material I can talk about. So personally, I think y'all should definitely go and watch Mark Passio's New Age Bullshit seminar and the Suppression of the Sacred Masculine. That's an amazing seminar on false light. But I can also do my own training on it, and so if you guys want to see that, please let me know in the comments. And it will be something that I price really affordably. It would be I don't know, depending on how long it is, it will be between the $10, $11 to $50, $60 max. I would just want it to be a one-day thing. But I do think it's really important that we kind of get this, because there's many ascension traps on the awakening journey. When I first started began my awakening journey, I really thought, I just want everyone to wake up, because once everyone wakes up, then we'll be good. But that's not true, because there's so many distortions and inversions that you could go so far off the garden path, and you could even stay there. There's a lot of people who end up just staying in some of these false light deceptions. So the crux of false light and the core of false light is when people don't understand that there is darkness on this planet, and that there is a regressive force, that there is an oppositional force to God and the Godhead. Also, not understanding that there is a Godhead, that there is a singular source, that there is Prime Creator, and that there is a stream that emanates from Prime Creator, that is the Christ. Not understanding that can also lead you into false light, and I'll explain why. If you don't understand that there is a Godhead, and that there is a oppositional force to that Godhead that is known in many traditions as Satan, and like what we've spoken about in this video, is an inorganic intelligence, okay, because it's separated from that heart-based intelligence, then you get into the type of thinking that once you like awaken to something other than just the 3D 5 sense reality, i.e. spirit, and like the other realms, the other dimensions, that it's all good out there. Oh, let's just astrally project, let's spend more time in the astral. The astrals is like, just the dimension that's literally just above this. It's like teeming with negative entities and like demons and gross stuff. So a lot of people will, when they don't connect directly to Prime Creator, they'll get into certain practices, rituals and things like that. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with rituals necessarily, but if you're not sourcing directly to Prime Creator and you're doing, let's say, a tarot reading, or you're doing, like a spell, like, you're practicing witchcraft without sourcing and shielding properly, then you're calling in negative entities to come and contract with you and to help do your bidding, and you're going against natural law. Not having a proper understanding of natural law, karmic law, and the true laws of creation is also something that will lead you into false light. So, a lot of people have a very rudimentary understanding of spirituality, and they get into kind of things like law of attraction, and they don't actually do their due diligence and study, the principles that law of attraction or law of assumption type teachings are based upon. And if they don't understand those, then they will actually get into Luciferian or Satanic thinking. And it's very important to note that the New Age movement was started by dark occultists. It was started by those who wanted to shield the truth from people and wanted them to believe, false light bullshit, like, like for example, solipsism, that you create your own reality, that you are the one that is conjuring all of this, that all of this is just a projection of your own consciousness, when that's actually like, the thing is, it's important not to get too polarized with all of this stuff, because the demonic forces can't actually, or regressive forces, or dark occultists, or people who want to kind of keep knowledge hidden for themselves and don't want others to know the truth, which is actually the essential what makes a dark occultist, they can't really create anything themselves. Like, everything is based on a truth that then gets distorted, okay? So it's maybe like a half-truth. So I'm not saying that there isn't truth in law of attraction teachings, okay? It's very, like, your beliefs and your assumptions and your ability to project your beliefs and your assumptions and your positive affirmations and all of that stuff onto the collective hologram are super powerful for manifestation, okay? You can do a lot of incredible work manifesting things for yourself and for others, understanding these universal principles. But not understanding the boundary conditions of universal law, which is, do no harm, cause and effect. There's full 7 hermetic principles that, you should all go study. Then you'll just get into thinking like, you know, what's another one that they teach? This is one that they teach in the Law of Assumption community, that you are God. You're not God, okay? You're a stream that emanates from the Godhead, and when you connect to Source, then you can co-create with Prime Creator. But you yourself, your individuated consciousness, no, sis, you're not, okay? That's some false light bullshit. So being able to understand the trivium, i.e. the threefold path to understanding the truth, is essential in being able to clear false light. And this is where, again, Mark Passio teaches that New Age bullshit is suppression of the sacred masculine principle, because it's the principle of suppressing, you know, objective knowledge that you seek from the outside. So one of the other, you know, deceptions that they teach is everything you need is already within you. You don't need anything from outside. You don't need a teacher. You don't need a mentor. You don't need to be organically initiated into systems of knowledge that existed before you came here. You know it all already. You just tune into your body. That's right brain imbalance, okay? That's when you get into too much into the feminine polarity. So like when people think that intuition is everything, like, oh, I trust my intuition. Your intuition is important, okay? So with the threefold path, it's knowledge, understanding, which leads to wisdom, okay? So knowledge is the sacred masculine principle. It's seeking, you know, objective knowledge, you know, using the scientific method and testing, you know, and observing things that you seek from outside yourself. Then you put them in through the perceptual filter of your body, which is your intuition, and you weigh it up against, you know, the divine feminine principle, okay? And that's where your heart, and if you're a woman, then you'll also have that womb-based intelligence. But this is also why I say it's very, very important to heal your trauma using embodiment practices like Himalayan Kriya Yoga, which I teach in Reclaim Your Crown, and then also quantum field work is very powerful for healing trauma. Because if you have a lot of, you know, traumatic imprints and triggers, your body's like in a kind of state of, you know, what's the word? Like kind of a heightened, adrenalized fight or flight, because you still have, you know, unresolved trauma that you haven't purged from your system. Then your perceptual filters will be colored by those distortions. So trauma healing is really, really important, okay? The threefold path, the trivium method to understanding the truth, is not an overnight process, okay? That's why we call it the great work, okay? The work of alchemy, balancing the masculine and feminine. What am I saying? Balancing the masculine and the feminine principles and both hemispheres of your brain, the left logic and the right intuitive, and that is the Heros Gamos, okay? It is the hero's journey, or, you know, the inner alchemy, the sacred marriage that connects you to God. And that's why everything in your life will improve when you do it. Like, you know, when so many people, when they get, oh, when I was deep in false light, my relationships were a mess, I'll tell you that much. And it was also easy for, because obviously when you go on this path, you want a spiritual man, and you go through like one of these new agey, you know, right brain and balanced guys as well, who are also very deeply in their feminine. And it's that much easier for them to spiritually gaslight you as well, if you don't understand how to discern false light. Like, such as if you think that they're doing something shady, or it's not even necessarily shady, but you just don't like what they're doing because it makes you feel uncomfortable, and you say, hey, listen, I felt really uncomfortable when, you know, you spoke to me like that, or when you were talking to that girl for a bit long. And then they tell you, well, that's just your perception. I wasn't really talking to you like that. So yeah, it's very, very insidious. Very, very insidious. Yeah. Okay, so I think that that's all I want to talk about today, because I don't want this video to go on for too long. But I feel like definitely I feel like I'll be better at talking about this with a little bit more interaction and input from you guys. So maybe I will post this as a possible subject that you can all vote on that we're going to talk about in the Facebook group. Okay, so my Facebook group for women, which I've been talking about for several weeks now, is now open. Click the link in my description box. If the link doesn't work, because Facebook only keeps the link active for 2 days, then message me on Instagram to ask for a link. Okay, I've seen some people post in the Telegram group saying, hey, the link isn't working for me. Message me on Instagram, okay, because I can't see those I only see those comments like a week later, so I don't want to keep you all waiting. You know, I want you to get into that group. It's for women only, by the way, if I didn't say that already. I've had a few men try to join. But yeah, we're going to be doing some activations in there. We're going to be doing some hangouts. We're going to be talking about things that we can't really talk about here on YouTube, because, you know, a lot of stuff to do with Hieros Gamos does involve polarity principles. It involves union, you know, your relationship to men. It involves sacred sexuality, and that's, you know, not always such a PG-13 topic. So, you know, we can talk a little bit more unfiltered in there. So please join me in there. And we're almost at the point, like I wanted to get like 20 to 30 women in there. I think we definitely got 20 now. Let's get 30. If we can get 30, then we'll do the activation. I'll get you all to vote on what you want me to talk about, and we'll have like a live hangout. You guys can ask me questions, we can all have a chat, and then we'll do an activation at the end. And I'm really, really looking forward to it and connecting with you all in real time. So yeah, join the group and I will see you in there. I'll love you and leave you, fam, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out. One love.